Value's kind of a weird thing. People value different things, different amounts. One example could be that these tier 1 warrior pieces, they're pretty cheap considering how much inflation currently exists on fresh, but there was much less in 2019 and they had similar prices. You might have even found things like Edge Masters for just a few hundred gold back then, or this goofy The Lion Horn of Stormwind. This probably wouldn't have been 70 gold in 2019. It likely would have went for a lot more. People had really different conceptions on what was useful for a character, and they also had different things they wanted to accomplish. In 2019, a whole lot of people had a lot of nostalgia and they remembered the emotions they felt playing this game, mostly as either children or very young adults. And they didn't really remember how they acquired any of those feelings. They just kind of came back to the game and were hoping that they could relive that again. And I think a lot of people probably weren't actually able to accomplish that. It definitely didn't happen for me. I had a lot of fun playing, but the experience was entirely different from playing as a 12-year-old back in like 2007. On the point of value, there's been a lot of people who've joined my guild that used to run guilds, or maybe you're a person watching this, you've ran a guild before, or you felt like you've taken on leadership responsibility in places, or even just done nice things for strangers, guildies, coworkers, whatever. And a lot of people who do this kind of stuff end up feeling kind of jaded because their contribution isn't noticed by others. It seems as if their contribution isn't valued by them. And that is exactly what is going on normally. It's very hard to tell what kind of things people are going to care about in the game or in the real world. You'll see this, for example, people will ask you if you're in charge of literally any kind of organization. They'll be like, how could I be useful? And they'll think that this is a really valuable, good question. And it's not like you're an idiot for asking it, but it's not actually very productive. How could that be? How could somebody ask you when you're the guild leader, the raid leader, or a manager at a company, what should I do that's valuable? How could that possibly not create value for you as the leadership person? Well, in this case, it's because really they're asking you to do the hardest part of the problem, which is coming up with what is the problem worth solving? How much value does it provide? And so if you are trying to help an organization and you go up to people and ask them what to do, it's not very valuable at all, which is kind of surprising unless you start thinking about how difficult it is to actually come up with the right answer to a problem. You'll also see this with things like recruiting. People say, well, why don't we have, and I'm not talking to any of my guildies. We didn't have enough healers last week in raid. It was a little bit of a problem. But they'll be like, why don't we have more healers? Let's recruit more healers. And they'll think that that's useful to say, but it doesn't really get to the essence of, well, how are we going to recruit healers? Like, we could go post in world chat. Like myself, for example, I could probably fill this guild up with a ton more people if I would just hit up world chat and post in trade chat. But in my opinion, I would get much lower quality recruits. I'd probably get way better hits than most people because I have a minor personal brand on YouTube. But at this moment, the only people who hit me up are, I would say, they really believe in the kind of things I talk about, and they probably have to deal with some apprehensions about reaching out first. And that makes it so everyone who's hit me up so far to join the guild has been a super fucking cool person. And I haven't had to have any screens at all, and everyone's been amazing that hangs out in Discord. Not everyone has hung out in Discord, but probably half the people who've joined have hung out, and maybe 30% of the people who've joined in total hang out like fucking constantly. And then everyone I've seen in dungeons is fantastic. But somebody else could, for example, think that they are helping me out by saying, well, I could write you a macro for world recruiting. And that wouldn't actually be very useful for me, and so I wouldn't act like it was very useful. When you're managing a guild, there's tons of things that you're tempted to do to spend your time on that you believe other people should value or will value. It could be that you go and check the logs a lot and you're trying to say, what's in your opinion, the mathematically best way to allocate the loot for some particular like statistical goal. So like maybe to optimize raid DPS, or you think it'll make the tank live the longest, or it could even be something like, well, what's going to make people's feelers feel the best? And if you do that, generally people won't really care, because the people who, for example, care about loot and would then give you negative feedback, they don't think of loot as a holistic system or a vision of you giving it out over a prolonged period of time. They're going to be thinking about it as like individual decisions you make in time. And they're going to be thinking things like, how could it possibly make sense that I would get nothing for weeks straight after getting a piece, even if there's literally only like 5 pieces that matter in Molten Core or another raid? They would not value you spending that time planning it out. Even if you made artifacts, you, for example, created spreadsheets or communicated with everybody. This isn't a problem I have anymore, but this is a problem I've ran into in the past in this case. And with talking to new people who have joined my guild, and many of them having this experience, I like to ask people, is there anything you feel jaded about with managing your past guilds? Did you ever do things and you felt like your guildies didn't appreciate your efforts, or almost as if any kind of like suffering you went through or sacrifice in the process of making your guild or making your raid team, is there anything you felt completely unrecognized for? And pretty much everyone I know who's ever made a guild that I have like talked to has said yes, that they've had a lot of that happen. Right now in my current guild, I've had almost no negative experiences. I've had one, and I don't want anybody to read into this because the person I'm talking about almost definitely doesn't watch my videos, but I've had one negative experience talking about loot with people in my guild. That's it. And I've had 2 times where one of my friends from the past has played rough with somebody, and then the other person didn't realize that they were just playing rough and that actually everybody's friends. And other than that, like those like literally 3 events, it's been exclusively positive moments for me, which is amazing, but is also if you've ever ran a group before, I'm sure that you probably just don't even believe that. You think I'm just making some shit up to advertise my guild, and I am trying to advertise my guild here, but no, it's the truth. But for example, in TBC, we had a ton of people in my guild, a whole bunch, and I wanted everybody to be included in Karazhan, and I didn't want to have random people in the group organize their own Karas and then basically advertise their clique and have people realize that not a whole lot of people really cared if they played with them. No matter what guild you're in, there's people who are great people but are shy. And unless they're fucking amazing players, they'll get left out of stuff. And this is something that I recognized in TBC, like the relaunch. And due to that, and also having some lower skill players, I wanted to make sure that like everybody had a functional group. I was running 9 Karazhans, not including 2 or 3 other Karas that were ran by other people in my guild. And I would raid in like 2 of them on my characters, and then I would actually get in Discord and raid lead the other ones, because there just wasn't a whole lot of people who I trusted to be able to do a good job of it, which was probably just me being a control freak, and I was likely wrong about that. But it felt like a whole lot of work, and it was very fun for a bit, except some of the groups just would constantly have stupid fucking problems. And it felt like I was going through a lot of suffering to try to make the guild a better place. And it definitely wasn't recognized by most people in my guild. And at the time, I thought that was super unfair. But now looking back on it, it's just, why should you as the individual performing labor be able to pick that other people are going to value something? Value is, it's only exists in the eye of the person receiving it, really. You can do things that are nice for people, productive for people. You can try to make people happier, or you can try to make them pissed off. But really, it's got a lot more to do with them than it ever has to do with you. So if any of you guys right now are running a guild and you're trying to please people and you're trying to make decisions for reasons other than you thinking that they're going to make you feel better and help you accomplish your goals, you're fucking crazy. You need to stop that. It will never work. I think the people in my guild are very happy, and I think they like me a lot and they like each other, and I could tell myself I'm a super nice guy, but it's just that for once the incentives align amazingly, and I can just selfishly go and make a bunch of really great friends that I like spending time with, and they just so happen to all feel the same and want to be friends with each other, and I've never felt better. But when I used to try to run groups and try to do things for other people, thinking that they would notice or that it would make the community better, that never worked. If you're looking for a guild, I have 2 raid teams. Well, I have 1 raid team right now. 2 p.m. Eastern Saturday, we're on Night Slayer Alliance North America. We're going to have a 9 p.m. Eastern raid team on Wednesday or Thursday very soon. Hit me up in Discord. I'd love to talk to you. Catch you later, guys.